Good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice to see you all here. Welcome to our Mother's Day Sunday tea. I'm the founder of Mothers of Angels, Tara Alexis. And first of all, I just want to start by saying a massive thank you to everybody who's signed up. I just want you to know that this is not about social media, numbers, followers. This is about you. This is about making a safe space for everyone to come and just feel welcome and free to do whatever you want to do. Talk, drink tea, lots of tea, don't talk, however you want to be, just feel comfortable. Just want to say that to everybody. Okay, our mission is to create a safe space to acknowledge and to honour all women who've experienced pregnancy and baby loss. Special thank you to our guest speakers today, Doreen Thompson-Addo and Hilary Grierson. We're going to hear more from them shortly. Okay, so a bit about me, in case you don't know. As I was saying, I'm the founder of Mothers of Angels. And 14 years ago, this April, I had a late miscarriage after carrying my boy for 5 months. And then I did counselling. I was getting along on my journey. And then 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, Mother's Day, what I like to do is just send texts to everyone who's a new mum, including my sister at the time, who actually had a stillbirth. And then she had my nephew. Just sent her a message, "Happy Mother's Day, Carol. You know, hope you get spoiled." And she sent me a text message back and said, "Happy Mother's Day to you too, Tara. You had a boy, a beautiful boy." And literally, I saw the text message and I just started crying. It was such a shock to me because I wasn't expecting it. All leading up to Mother's Day, I was doing lots of avoidance things. I already decided I'm going to stay at home the whole day. I would usually go to church every Sunday, but I didn't want to talk to anyone, so I was like, I'm going to stay home, and that's it. So to see this text message from my sister acknowledging me for the first time, nobody had ever said Happy Mother's Day, nothing, I just completely broke down. I spent the whole day in bed crying, under the covers. I was really inconsolable, and then I plucked up the courage to text one friend to say, "I'm not feeling good at all." And I wasn't even able to articulate it properly, but that was fine. And then I think it was a week after, I was talking to a pastor from a church I used to go to in Nottingham. And she actually helped me to see that I'd been undervaluing myself by ignoring myself on Mother's Day. And the fact that actually, if you want to celebrate it, acknowledge it, call yourself a mum, you have every single right to do so. And I told my family. I wrote a really, really long post on Facebook, so long, just telling everyone how I felt. And then actually, one of my friends got in touch and said, "Tara, I've always wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to you, but I just didn't know how to say it or if you would receive it." And then I was thinking, actually, there might be other women who feel like this around Mother's Day. And that was the start of Mothers of Angels. Got in contact with Sans, who I'll talk about in a bit. And then, 4 years later, this is our third one. 3 years later, we're here with our Mother's Day tea. So that's a bit about the history for us. Some information for Sans. Sans are the leading stillbirth and neonatal death charity in the UK. They exist to reduce the number of babies dying and to ensure that anyone affected by the death of a baby receives the best possible care and support for as long as they need it. And I think that's important because even myself, as an example, had a loss 14 years ago. 9 years in was actually when I started to acknowledge it. So it doesn't matter how long ago or how recent it was, you will still be supported by Sans. Sans provide bereavement support services both nationally through its Freephone helpline, mobile app and support groups, which Hilary will possibly touch on a bit later. Also, the charity work in partnership with healthcare professionals, trusts and health boards and offer a range of training programme and bereavement care resources. They ensure that every bereaved parent and family receives the best possible care. And also to let you know, today we have Patrice. Sorry to highlight you, she's sat at the back. Patrice is also from Sans. She is the Bereavement Support Services Officer with a Black and British focus for Sans. Thank you for being with us today. Okay, so this year our theme is with love. What is love? What does it mean to have it? And what does it mean to be a recipient of love? Wikipedia says love encompasses a range of strong and positive emotional and mental states, from the most sublime virtue or good habit to the deepest interpersonal affection and the simplest pleasure. A famous quote from the Bible that talks about love says that it's kind, it's patient, it always protects, it always hopes, and it never fails. Love is blind. We might have heard that phrase before, often connected with romantic love. And I know there's a reality show. Don't know if anyone here has watched that. I've told so many friends I'm going to watch it, but I've never watched it yet. That is called Love is Blind. Maybe I'll get around to it. I can watch it. And then a final quote on love I found recently says, loving ourselves works great miracles in our lives. And I thought that was really powerful because I think it can be healing, and to also turn that inwards as well. Okay, so our Mother's Day Sunday tea. A little bit about Mother's Day. I did some research. Where did this Mother's Day thing come from? Because I know right now it's very commercialized, and I think that adds to the difficulty that we can find in the lead up to Mother's Day. Everyone's like, I'm here, you know, I got this card, I got that. It's all over social media. But actually it started in the UK during the Middle Ages, where people who had moved away from home would come back to home to their mother church. That's what it used to be. And then they would also, if you moved away and worked away from home, come back and visit your families. And then in America, it started with a lady called Anna Jarvis, who held a memorial service for her own mother, who did lots of amazing things for other women and other mothers. She passed away, and then she decided to hold a memorial service for her mother. And then the president in the United States made it a national holiday, and then it got commercialized. And actually, I believe Anna Jarvis tried to stop Mother's Day because it had gone so commercialized, but as we know, it's still going today. But one common thing that both the US and the UK have in common is that on this particular day, they show love and they honor. And that's exactly what we want to do for you here today. I know for myself, in part of my healing journey, there was a thing of feeling like I was left out and not a part of it. And I don't think that should be the case as well. So we're bringing you in, we're saying that actually you can celebrate this day, you can be a part of it, you can receive love, you can love yourself, and we want to honor you as well. Okay, so to introduce our guest speakers now, Doreen and Hilary, thank you again for being here with us today. Could you tell us both a bit about a bit about yourselves? And also a question that I like to ask is, what brings you here with us today? Or why are you both here with us today?
You're first.
First I just want to thank you, Tara, for putting on these types of events. When my miscarriage journey started, I wish we had something like this around, but we didn't. So I'm really pleased that we've got something like this now.
My name's Doreen Thompson-Addo. I guess my kind of baby loss journey started kind of shortly after I got married. So I got married in 2011 to my husband, Reg, and, we decided that we were going to wait for a couple of years before we started kind of the journey of having a family, because, you don't think you're going to have a miscarriage, right? You can wait for a couple of years, enjoy just being married, and then start raising a family. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. So a couple of years into being married, got pregnant for the first time, and I had what was called an early miscarriage. And this was all new to me. I just wasn't aware of this journey at the time. But 5 or 6 weeks into my first pregnancy, I had an early miscarriage. Between 2013 and 2012, just 2020, just before lockdown, March 2020, I subsequently went to have 7 miscarriages in total. So I had 5 early miscarriages, 1 late miscarriage in my 4th month of pregnancy, where I gave birth to a boy. We named him Malachi. And then my 8th pregnancy, was an ectopic pregnancy. Sorry, my 7th pregnancy was an ectopic pregnancy where the baby was kind of growing on my fallopian tube, and so we had to have an emergency operation to remove my fallopian tube. Miraculously, though, I do have a rainbow baby called Ariel. She was born in 2017, and she was born after our ectopic pregnancy. So it's a miracle how I was able to kind of get pregnant and give birth with kind of one fallopian tube, and it just blows my mind. But yeah, that has kind of been my journey. We tried again to give Ariel a sibling in 2020. That was the last pregnancy that I had. Unfortunately, that was again another miscarriage. Like I said, it was literally a week before we went into lockdown. So you can imagine everything that I was going through emotionally at the time. We then decided to stop trying because I think, at some stage it does take its toll on you. And, we have tried. Sorry if I get emotional. I'll start crying. Sorry. I think the reality is, I think sometimes you have the kind of a goal and a vision in your mind of the type of family that you want to have, and you try to make it happen, and we did try, but at the same time, there's only so much we as women can endure, right? And sometimes you have to be able to just say, okay, enough is enough. And so we decided to stop trying. So we have one daughter. We're not going to try anymore. And, people are, with all the great intentions, they'll say, why don't you adopt? Why don't you foster? Or why don't you, try it? Everyone's journey is different. So we've decided not to go down that path, and we are happy with that decision. But one thing, it's just made me realize that you just don't know what's going to happen. And so I never say to anyone, it's going to happen, this, because I don't know what tomorrow holds. Everyone's journey is very, very different. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey so far. And I'll absolutely be more than happy to share a little bit more later. But I'm really happy to be here. And, you had another question. I forgot what the second question was. Why are you here? Yes. I'm here because, like I said, I wish when this happened to me in 2013 that there was this type of community out there. I did not know, sadly, that so many women go through this. You always think this is something that you're going through yourself, that nobody understands, that nobody gets it. So kind of part of the reason I'm here is because I love what Tara is doing. But also I think it's just really important to be around other women who've perhaps experienced something similar, and to almost inspire hope and love. My page, Joy After Miscarriage, is very much all about that. In spite of everything that I've been through, I still hold on to hope. I still hold on to love. I still believe that life is worth living. I still believe that there's so much that we can give to this world, even though, the family that I ideally wanted hasn't come to pass. It doesn't mean that life is still not worth living. And I guess I'm here to kind of encourage everyone else to know that and to believe that. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Hilary, and I'm here today representing North East London Sands as well as myself. So to follow on what Doreen said is my journey was back in 2011. I got married and didn't expect to get pregnant so quickly, but I came back from the honeymoon with a baby in my belly. So as you do, yeah. So it happened much quicker than I had expected. Was delighted. Had a great pregnancy. There were no cause concerns. I did lots of extra scans just so I could take my mum to them, and friend, whatever. Just wanted, like always, to see the baby in my belly. So there were no cause concerns. The baby was growing well. It wasn't until I went into labour at 41 weeks, 4 days. Again, absolutely fine. Was at home. Remember watching The Apprentice. Phoned up the hospital. they said, how far are the contractions? And I said they weren't that far, wasn't in pain, I was happy. Everything was going well. And they said, well, has the baby been moving? Yep, the baby had moved that day. I'd had a bath and remember the baby moving. And then, anyway, until about 11 o'clock, then we decided, they phoned up and they said, yeah, come in, your contractions seem to be a bit closer. And I was starting to feel that I was ready. We got into hospital and, yeah, it was, as you know, it was on the maternity ward. It was busy. They saw us quite quickly and they did the routine tests. My husband was trying to get a game going on his iPad. He was like, and I was like, me, it's about me. And he was just like, oh, I want to play this golf game. And while they're doing the tests, and then it was, and then he put it down while we were doing tests. And that's when they found out that there wasn't a heartbeat. The lady was, obviously, she was quite a young midwife and wasn't sure what to do. And she said, I think the machine's broken.
Oh, dear.
So that was fine. She was reassuring. So we were both just sitting there, got quite tense. Everything was quiet. She came back with another machine, still couldn't find a heartbeat. And then at that point, I could tell that things weren't quite right. Wasn't the expectation at all. So they were really good. I was at the Whittington Hospital and they immediately, there was this care that just came in the room. We were in a room on our own. There was somebody with us all the time. They said, we need to get a consultant in. Consultant came in, was taken to another room. Everybody was just amazing, weren't saying it's going to be okay, because I think they knew, but the care already had started. But we were taken to a room, and then the consultant had to say that the baby had died. So sorry, I'm getting upset.
That's okay.
So this was in 2012, in May. He was born on May the 3rd. So they explained, and I still, to this day, is something that we didn't really question at the time, and I was like, can you just get the baby out? I just want the baby out. But we had to go through, obviously, childbirth, which I'm kind of glad I did, because it meant that I was able to give birth to my little boy. We didn't know he was a boy until he was born. And I just can't thank the Whittington enough for the care that I did get given that day. During the whole of our labour, we were given a beautiful, well, I say space, we were still in the labour ward, but we were in a room as far away as they could. And so, yeah, I had my first baby, Hamish, and he was born, he was perfect. Unfortunately, that we never really got an answer to why he died. We gave permission for an autopsy, but without doing further and further investigation, which we didn't want. At that time, we said, we just need to know that it wasn't anything I did, which I think I will talk about later as well, about the love that we give ourselves afterwards. Needed to know that it wasn't something genetic. So we never really got an answer. He seemed to be lacking oxygen towards the end, but they still don't understand why, because umbilical cord, everything seemed to be in perfect order. But we met him, we held him, we had everyone giving us an opportunity to come back in to see him. At that point, there wasn't a cold cot in the Whittington at all. So it was a case of just being able to hold him for a short time before he had to go back to them to be put into a cold place. But the care was great. I still look back and I'm still in touch with the Whittington Hospital. I still liaise with the Whittington Hospital. I love the bereavement team there. They've always given to me the care that I need. So now I'm kind of 12 years down in my journey. After Hamish as well, we then were told, give it a bit of time. But if anyone that's been in the situation where they've been pregnant and they're not pregnant and they've lost a child, it's an automatic reaction. Well, it was for me to just want to try again, and we did. Unfortunately, I went on to miscarry at around 11 weeks. So that was kind of another, as you know, just another bang and just another heartbreaking moment in our lives. But then fortunately, after that miscarriage, when I went in, when they say that everything had gone, I just went through it, just stayed at home while went through that moment. And the lady who did the test to see that everything had come out just said, go home, make a baby, because she could tell that this was a good time. And so fortunately for me, I've now got 2 more boys, Walter and Fergus, who came immediately after that who are very much part of the journey. They're boys that understand that they have this brother, Hamish, that isn't with us anymore. But it meant that I wanted to, ever since then, I've done fundraising, and then I became very entwined with the groups at North East London. I went for the support, sat with other mothers, and yes, I remember the first Mother's Day just being like not acknowledged as a mother, everyone avoiding that moment, everyone, even my mum, like wanted to say it, but she didn't know how to say it, that you're still a mother. So something like this has come very further on. I do try and celebrate myself on Mother's Day. I have got 2 other boys, but I always, like on my social media, say I'm a mum of 3 boys. Yeah. Hamish is very much part of us, and I don't ever want him to be forgotten, and I don't want the experiences of miscarriage, etc., to be forgotten, because people don't forget, but they don't know that you want to talk. But that's my journey, and I'm here now because I want to support other mothers. I want to support other families. I want to be part of something that is so amazing that Tara has created here, to see so many people that need this, and to be here today so that we can all be mothers together is just amazing. So,
thank you. Thank you both so much for sharing your stories. Okay, so we all in the room will have different views on love and different definitions of love. And today we're going to be looking at pregnancy and baby loss and grief in relation to love as well. I know that myself, whenever I describe this type of loss to people, I use the word intimate. And I know intimate, again, it can be connected to romantic love. But to me, I feel like it was so intimate because he was growing inside of me. So he was so close. So to have a loss of someone so close was really intimate to me. And that's a word that I like to use to describe it. The biblical definition of love speaks about always hoping, and love protects. And I know that I myself felt this with my boy. And I often say he was a bit of a fighter, because I know early on in the pregnancy, I had a bleed and I was a bit scared, but I was like, no, he's fighting. He's good. And he did fight. And I was always hoping for him and always being protective of him as well, which is something that the definition says that that's what love does. I've also heard a lot of counsellors and therapists talk about the close link between love and grief. So a few quotes regarding that. Queen Elizabeth II said, "Grief is the price you pay for love." Other statements are, "Grief and love are 2 sides of the same coin. Grief can only exist where love first lived." And then another one, "Grief is love with no place to go." So I'll start by asking both of you your thoughts on the relationship between grief and love, and maybe some of the quotes as well. And then also something we're going to talk about is self-love. We're all, I'm sure, acquainted with the term self-love in this room. But I know for myself, in the early stages, definitely, I had a lot of challenges with self-love, because if you can say self-love, then I would say I had self-hate, if you like, massive, like loathing of myself, actually, the complete opposite of self-love, which we'll probably talk about later on. But what I want to ask you both is the difficulties, if any, because there might not be any difficulties, with allowing ourselves to be loved by others. And that's family, friends, living children. How easy or how hard was it for you both to allow people to love you during that time? And also, do you have any advice for anybody else relating to that?
I personally found it quite easy. I wanted people to, for thinking about my family and friends, it was the thing that I needed straight away, was my family. The first thing we did was phone our family. Our family are quite far away. They're not in London. So I just wanted my mum. I know my husband wanted his family, his sisters. I wanted my brother. So for us, it was an immediate reaction, was to get in touch with our family, have them there to be with us that moment, to come and meet Hamish, to give me the hugs and support. From my husband as well, I felt at the time I needed him. We were the only people I felt in that moment that could understand what we were going through. So I was able to accept love and support in the very immediate hours after we had Hamish. With regarding the feeling I had towards myself, I think it was, like Tara's just said, I just felt like I was to blame. So I did hate myself. I hated my body. I hated my belly. I hated that I still looked pregnant. I hated that I felt, until obviously knowing further down the line that it wasn't my fault. I felt that it was my fault. I'd done something to my baby. I should have protected him. So yeah, so I found it very hard in those. It took a long time afterwards. I had a lot of counselling. I went to the North East London SANS support groups, heard other mothers being in the same sort of situation of what they felt too. But I think it was through the SANS groups, it was through the counselling, it was through my family and my friends. And yeah, my friends pulled out all the stops too. I had a lot of support of people just telling me again and again and again it wasn't my fault. And one of the things I remember, because I exercised throughout my pregnancy and I was very proud that I was still doing 5Ks, 10Ks and running with Hamish, and look at me, I'm running. And I felt that it was that. And that was one thing I had to come to terms with. And I asked if it was that. And they were saying, no, it's not that. You took all the advice on board for exercising. So yeah, so I just wanted, I had to have affirmation from people all the time. I needed that love, and I found it easy to accept the love. I don't think I felt I pushed anyone away. I felt anyone who wanted to talk to me, I grabbed at that chance for them to talk to me about what I've been through, about my son. And North East London SANS, in those support groups, just hearing from people that were a bit further down the line on how to move forward with the experience and how to, about obviously if getting pregnant again, how I would feel about that, the pregnancy following the loss, and whether I would be able to love another baby. Because, yeah, it was obviously a love that's so intense that you just feel that you could never have that again. But, yeah, for me, I accepted love, and, yeah, very much love being with my, people and I made lots of friendships now through the groups and through social media. We all support one another and hold each other up, so which is very powerful, I feel. Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting. One of the things I love is hearing everyone's stories, because my experience is almost the complete opposite to yours. So when I had my first miscarriage, when I was pregnant for the first time, you just don't think anything like this is going to happen. So you do tell your mom, dad, you tell your friends, you start thinking about names. I was planning baby shower like at the very, very beginning. And then when the miscarriage happened, I did tell people, but because I didn't tell a lot of people that I was pregnant in the first place, I think I told my closest friends and kind of my immediate family. I wouldn't necessarily say it was.
It's a difficult one. I think a lot of it, I think, is quite cultural in from kind of. So my background is Ghanaian. I have a sort of Ghanaian sort of heritage, and very much so when I had sort of my first miscarriage, I just felt that there was very much this kind of taboo around kind of miscarriage. So even when I had my miscarriage, my family were wonderful, but I still genuinely feel that perhaps they didn't know what to do with the news. And so it was really, in my experience, it was quite difficult to genuinely feel supported and loved, because I just think perhaps within my community that they just didn't know what to do. So it was hard for me. And I think as I got pregnant again and again, and I miscarried again and again, what I ended up doing was just not say anything to anyone because I was so scared. So actually, in my situation, I very much, I wouldn't say, it was very much quite a lonely journey for me, because I was so scared of telling people that I was pregnant just in case another miscarriage happened. And so it was very much my husband and I sort of dealing with this. My sisters were wonderful. I love my parents, but my parents, they're Ghanaian, they're quite traditional. They tried, but I just don't think they don't. What do we do with this? And it was it was hard to receive. I wish I had that kind of support that you've sort of talked about. So I think in my situation, it just very much felt like quite a lonely journey. And I think because of that, there was a lot of self-hate, a lot of self-blame. I blamed myself every time I miscarried. It was something that I must have been doing. And, you know, it even got to the point where I was thinking, does my husband even want to be? I can't even give my husband a child. You know, does he want to be with me? It was really difficult to love myself, to love my body, because this one thing that everyone else seems, I have friends and they breathe and they're just pregnant. I'm like, what's going on here? And it was just really difficult. And, you know, the friends that I did have, they were wonderful. But I think with all the best intentions, sometimes they would say things that just didn't help. So in my situation, it wasn't an issue getting pregnant. I seemed to get pregnant very easily. The issue was I could never stay pregnant. And so for some of my friends, it was very much, well, at least, the whole at least thing, at least you can get pregnant. Oh yeah, but that's not what I want to hear. And so and that again just made it really difficult for me to love myself. It's like, well, you're saying I could, but I can't. Clearly, something's going wrong here. So it was really difficult to love myself. And even, up to today, I still think, is it something that I've done? And it's sad because I think for many of us, if you talk to a lot of women, there's never a reason why this is happening. So to this day, almost 13 years later, I still do not know why I've miscarried so many times. The doctors have never been able to pinpoint exactly what the issue is. And it wasn't until I traveled all the way to Ghana, and I met with a fertility specialist that used to work in the UK that's kind of moved to Ghana. And he was the first person that actually gave me genuine time, because early pregnancy units, they are wonderful, but it just got to the point where I just felt like I was a bit of a statistic, to be honest. But in Ghana, this guy sat with me for a couple of hours, and he was the first person that made me actually realize that there is something wrong. So here in the UK, they couldn't see, or they couldn't determine what was wrong. Some people said, oh, it could be PCOS, it could be this, but never a real answer. And this person in Ghana was very much like, okay, we don't know what the answer is, but there is something wrong, we just don't know what it is. And that was the first time I generally felt validated.
Can I just ask you a question? I'm sorry, I'm jotting down notes and things that I hear. So a question I wanted to ask you is, did you ask for love? And I know that can seem a bit like, well, what does that mean? But there are lots of different ways that we might be asking. So I wondered if you asked for love from your family. And I also wanted to link to this point of allowing ourselves to be loved by others, romantic love as well. And I just want to put another perspective in the room, that when I had my loss, I wished I was married. Because in my head, I thought, yeah, if you're married, you're going to have a husband and they're going to rub your feet every night and they're going to tell you you're amazing and do all of that stuff. I was in a relationship, because you have to be in a relationship to get pregnant. But, well, no, it was a situationship. It was a mess. It was a terrible thing that I was in with a guy. I wasn't expecting to get pregnant, and then I got pregnant, and then I had a loss. So for me, in terms of the romantic allowing myself to be loved, he didn't even love me in the first place. So that's just a perspective I want to kind of put out there in case there's anyone in the room, and then also to kind of hear about allowing yourself to be loved by your partner. So for me, there was no partner. But what I did have is my mum, and I did have my sister. And actually, me and my sister are so close, we're like that. So her love, allowing myself to be loved by her, was something that really got me through. And then I also know that some people might be attached to faith groups as well. There was a lady at a church I was going to who was amazing. And I was able to, probably those two, to be honest, my sister and a lady from the faith group, who I was kind of able to let my guard down and let their love in. But just to kind of say, and if there's anybody watching as well, that you might be single or you might not be in a relationship at the time as well, but everything is still valid. And I put a term down here, I feel quite impressed with it, that just allowing myself and ourselves to kind of plug into love somewhere. So for me, I could plug into my sister and kind of let her love me. I was able to plug into my church. So also just having a thought or just thinking about, if you don't have that partner, then is there somewhere where you can kind of plug in to be loved? And then just putting it back to you two, did you ask for love, Doreen? And then also between your partner, was it easy to allow them to love you?
No, I didn't intentionally ask for love. And I think that might be because my general character is quite extroverted. So if you see me, I'm quite an outgoing person. I'm generally, quite bubbly. And, as I was going through my miscarriages, even though I was perhaps struggling internally, externally, most people would think that I'm okay. And I think because of that, people might think, oh, she's okay. She's all right. She's smiling. Everything's fine. I don't look a mess on the outside. And I think because of that, people maybe would have thought, okay, she's okay. Whereas actually, that's a fantastic question. I should have been more intentional about being clear of what I need from perhaps family and friends. It wasn't until I had my late miscarriage, when we lost our boy, that I broke down at one point in front of my mum. I came home, and I just fell into my mum's arms and just started bawling and bawling and bawling. And I think at that moment, my mum realized the pain that I was going through and the love that I needed. And she literally held me like a baby and she prayed over me. And that was a wonderful moment. But no, I didn't intentionally ask for love. And my husband has been wonderful. But I think we also have to remember that the partners, he was going through his own grief and his own loss. And I think in his mind as well, he couldn't protect me. He couldn't, this was sort of out of his control. So he also needed love as well. So I think we tried to support each other, but I was also very conscious that for him, it was really hard to receive love. And as much as he did try to give love as well. But yeah, I think being intentional about asking for it, definitely not something I did.
How about yourself, Hilary?
Yes, I think from the moment that we'd found out that Hamish's heart had stopped, my husband, the most, I would say, Louise laughed at it, the most loving I've ever seen him. We're not the most tactile couple, or we kind of like take the mick out of each other quite a lot. We're not like walking along holding hands. But I think that was I said to him, it was like, even though we'd got married, but it was kind of for a bet anyway, so that's a whole nother story. So he does love me. Yeah, we're still together. Okay. Yeah. That's a whole other story. We'll talk at tea. Even though I knew, even on the wedding day, I knew he loved me, but yeah, it brought us very, very close because we were both going through exactly the same thing. He was just as excited about the pregnancy as I was. He engaged with everything I told him to do, like read to the baby in the belly, let's have photographs, let's take you kissing the belly and all that. And photos of which I'm so glad I've got now, as is he, that he was involved in those photos. It wasn't just me taking pictures of my belly all the time. But yeah, I allowed him in. Didn't even need to ask him to give me the love at the time. It was only as the weeks went on, he goes back to work, I'm on maternity leave, he goes back to normality, I'm stuck in the flat, he's telling me, go out, do this, and I'm like, I can't go out, I can't, I'm still meeting people that are like, where's the baby? Yeah. You've had the baby, or you get on a bus and you still look pregnant, and people go, oh, let you sit down, oh, you're pregnant, how many months are you? And you're like, nah, it's, this is a post-baby, where's the baby? That kind of, so I don't want to leave my flat, thank you. So that's only after, like, the intense time, that few weeks he was allowed, I think it was 4 weeks he had off. And that time after the funeral, he went back and to work. And then that's when I was then, please, I still need you. I still need you. I'm still going through this. Why are you not going through it? Why are you able to read a newspaper and sit and do something different? Whereas I was still looking at baby clothes, still looking at what we had, the baby clothes, and the funeral's over now. I've got nothing else, nothing. Yeah. And then, that's when I was thinking, right, now we're going to get divorced. But we haven't, we're still together. And we still go through our moments, especially when it comes to Hamish's birthday. I'm still very much like, what are we going to do on the day? And he's like, okay, like it's me instigating stuff. And I'm like, I still need to love. And still when I was just talking to a friend just now that I still find that period of time leading up to Hamish's birth, like that anniversary, still quite intense. The memories, the scan photos. The last day I had a scan, I was in the day before I gave birth to him having a scan and heartbeat, all those memories. And I cry and I think about what should have been. And he's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, can you just give me some love and give me a hug? So it's still, even this, 12 years later, it was easier at the time in a weird way. And then as time has gone, it's become a little bit, it widens. Even though I know he's feeling it, he is feeling it. He obviously loves Hamish just as much as I do, but we love in a different way. So,
I'm going to jot that down, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We love in a different way. Thank you. Okay, so the next point I will have down is afraid to love or connecting again, pregnancy after loss. And this is something that I personally am really keen to hear from both of you. I've already told myself that when I do get pregnant again, I'm going to see a counsellor, or I'd like to go to a support group or something, just because I imagine feeling quite anxious about that. And I've seen that with my sister as well, who had a loss at 40 weeks. And now she has my nephew and niece. And I've kind of was really close with her going through both of those, the second and the third pregnancy, and how anxious she was feeling. And then also the point of being afraid to love this new baby. And I know that might be an interesting take for yourself, Doreen, on that as well. And the other thing that I want to say again to the room and to anyone listening is that I appreciate that everyone's journey to becoming pregnant is different and unique. Some might have multiple losses, as Doreen and both of you have spoken about, actually. Some people might be pregnant through IVF, surrogacy. There's so many different journeys. So I just want to say that I appreciate that everyone's journey is unique. And again, put this point to both of you in light of everyone's journeys, being afraid to love and then connecting again, pregnancy after loss, basically. What are your kind of thoughts or comments on that?
I agree. Counselling was very much needed. You start with not knowing if you are going to get pregnant again, because as Doreen has touched on as well, people say, well, you fell pregnant very easily, it will happen again. I was fortunate enough that I did fall pregnant again quite quickly. And at the time, as soon as I did get pregnant, I wasn't sure how to respond to the pregnancy. I didn't know I was either can go two ways. I knew I had this. Do I just detach myself so I don't get hurt again? Or do I go in for the full love and give as much love as I can, just in case it ends up in the same way that Hamish had died right at the end? I mean, as it was, I then miscarried with that first pregnancy. But I did get to the point where I was feeling I wanted to love. I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant. I was too scared to tell anyone I was pregnant. I wanted to deal with this alone. And then I miscarried. And then, as you know, when you miscarry, some people don't know you're pregnant, and it's a very isolating time. So I then dealt with that. My husband again came together with me. We dealt with it together. And then I got pregnant with Walter. And again, I knew I was at this moment. And then I was thinking, right now, not only I can lose this baby at any point. So I decided that, and my husband was very good with this, which is supportive, just make the most of this pregnancy as much as you can, in a way, just like love, make them nice. So I was having my photos. I was even, because something the bereavement midwife said to me after Hamish was born, I said, I haven't got these memories. And you've got all the memories of everything that you did when you were pregnant. And so I made a little book of everywhere I went when I was pregnant with him. I put all the photos in a book with Hamish. So I said, right, I'm going to do the same for this baby. I'm going to create a montage, like this is his journey or her journey. And then through counselling as well, and the North East London SANS group that I used to go to, was just making sure that I was doing the same things like with this baby that I did with Hamish, and just talk to the baby, love the baby, build memories with the baby, and just hope that this baby was going to be the one that I took home. It was hard. It was anxious. I was anxious. I was in hospital all the time, like constantly, please, can I be monitored? I don't feel the baby moving. Can I be monitored? Please, can I come in? Like, here are my notes again. Shall I just leave them here? Because I'm in here nearly every week. I might be spotting. Am I miscarrying? I don't know. So as well as being anxious, I tried really hard, but it was a real effort to make sure that I gave this pregnancy the same emotion and the same time that I gave my pregnancy with Hamish and with the weeks that I had with the baby where I miscarried as well. So, I chose to go down that route, as anxious as it made me feel.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the reality is pregnancy after a loss is it's not easy. You know, once you've had one miscarriage, getting pregnant afterwards, you've almost lost. So for somebody that hasn't experienced a miscarriage, I don't know what that experience is like, just to get pregnant and go through 9 months of pure bliss, nothing going wrong whatsoever. You know, people talk about, you know, feet getting a bit swollen and your nose getting flat and all these sorts of things. But yeah, in my situation, because my first pregnancy was a miscarriage, just the journey just after that was I could just never go back to what that first experience was like. And to some extent, I think the NHS were wonderful, but they also sort of didn't help in some sense, because with the experiences that I had, you know, second and third pregnancies that I had, there's almost this sort of kind of narrative that I almost felt that the doctors were like, oh, don't worry, you'll almost be fine the second time. It's when I had the first miscarriage, it was very much, you know, almost lots of people miscarry at least once. And, you know, 90% of women will go on and, you know, successfully get pregnant the second and third time. So in my mind, I was feeling very hopeful, you know, second or third time round it's going to happen, because the doctors were very much like, it's rare that, you know, people will have a recurrent miscarriage. And so there was a little bit of hope, kind of second and third one. I guess I felt more connected. But, you know, after I had my third miscarriage, you know, like you'd said, it was really difficult to enjoy the pregnancy, because I just, you know, firstly, I just wanted to get to, you know, the 12-week mark. You know, you get to 12 weeks and think, okay, everything's going to be fine. And obviously I had a late miscarriage in my 4th month, so that didn't happen. So in my situation, it was difficult to enjoy pregnancy after loss, because every little niggle, I'm just like, is my baby okay? Going to even something like going to the toilet just filled me with dread, because you're like, okay, is anything going to happen if I go to the loo? You know, so just even going to the loo was just anxiety inducing. And yes, as time went on, 5th month, 6th month, 7th month, you know, glimmers of hope begin to kind of increase. But the entire kind of journey for me I really had to, you know, as Tara said, yeah, I'm a Christian myself, and I really had to just, you know, trust God and just go pray that, you know, this particular pregnancy will see me through to the end. But when we talk about love, it was interesting, because I think for me, the idea of loving that child was always stronger than the fear of perhaps losing the child. So the love was always stronger than the fear. And I guess that was one thing that kept me going, knowing that, you know, there is this child that is inside of me, and I will try as much as I can to love that child. And that love was always a little bit stronger than the fear, even though the fear and the anxiety was there. That love was always there. And I guess that's the interesting thing about how, I guess, love and grief, they're intertwined. You can love just as much as you can be really anxious. It's a weird, combination. So for me, pregnancy after loss was a kind of delicate balance between that intense love that you had, but also there's the anxiety that's there as well.
Thank you both for sharing. I've got one more point that I will touch on due to time, and then probably in the Q&A we'll explore a bit more. But this is self-love during loss, appreciation of ourselves, our bodies, and our courage, which for me didn't come until a lot after. There was no self-love for years, if I'm honest, after my loss. There was no appreciation for my courage until years after. There was no love for my body at all, a memory that just popped into my head. So some of you will know that I'm an actress and a writer, and I remember being asked to make a short film after my loss. And it probably was only about 2 or 3 months afterwards. I was still big. I have in my notes, the Jamaicans gave me food. I'm Jamaican, that's my heritage. And it could be a cultural thing. They want you to feel better. Hey, have this patty, have this, whatever it was. But that just did not help. It wasn't going to help the emotional, the emotional need that I had. And actually, I just got fatter. So I was already big because I'd put on weight in the pregnancy. And then I kind of did a bit of comfort eating. So I got bigger. And then I was asked to film this short film, which I did. I should have, when I look back now, I'm like, Tori, you should have just said, actually, I'm not in the right emotional place to do this. But I didn't say that. I did the film. And when I watched it back, I just cried because I looked terrible. So there was no appreciation for my body. And I think one of the things that sometimes we kind of skip over as women is that our bodies do an amazing, they work hard and they do so much. And even though my pregnancy and pregnancies that end in loss end that way, your body's actually been through a trauma as well. So there was no self-love for my body. And something else that happened, which was very traumatic, it doesn't sound it, I had a haircut. And that doesn't sound traumatic, does it? I remember I had a weave at the time, and I always kind of joke about it was good that I had a weave because I was not looking after myself. I wasn't combing my hair. So if it was my own hair, there was just no care at all for it. And I remember taking this weave out, going to the hairdressers, and my hair grew. He kind of straightened it out when people started relaxing their hair then. And my hair was probably down to here. However, it wasn't the healthiest that it could be. So this hairdresser said, going to give you a trim, Tara. Okay, that's cool. I left the hairdressers and my hair was up here. That is not an exaggeration. So it was down there and then I left up here. I just felt so traumatized by that because for me, there was, my body's changed, my baby's gone. I'm thinking that I look one way and then actually I'm looking like a completely different person. So I found that so hard to deal with. So again, in the last few minutes that we have with this segment, what's your thoughts on self-love, appreciating your bodies, appreciating the courage, and just, I don't know, can you be nice to yourself during this time? And if there's anyone who's struggling to love themselves or to be gentle, what would you say to that?
I would say, like you, afterwards, there was definitely no love for myself. I remember my midwife, my antenatal midwife, who used to come and visit me weekly, would just be like, just go and get your hair done. Like, because my roots were like right down here. Because I didn't get it dyed while I was pregnant. And then I didn't want to do it because you know, I wasn't feeling great about myself, and I just didn't. She's like, go and get your hair done. I didn't want to get my hair done. I definitely didn't feel great. I don't feel like I've been able to bring that element to my life until very recently, because I felt like I was so focused on the next step, like trying to get pregnant again, the next baby, like dealing with the grief, feeling that hatred for myself for not carrying and delivering a live birth, having a live birth. And so, yeah, I struggled with it. I did exercise a lot. That was one thing that I knew I had to do, because one of my sister-in-law is also a midwife, and she said, you know, try and get yourself back into shape, and then, you know, you'll feel better about, you know, getting pregnant again. It might help you. So I used to run anyway. So I just got back into the running. But even that was for me mentally. But when I was running, I wasn't feeling love for it anymore. I was just memories of running while I was pregnant, because as I said before, I felt like if I hadn't run when I was pregnant, maybe Hamish would be here. But it's for the advice I give people now, if people to ask, is to try and make sure that you do something for yourself, reset yourself, recharge yourself, and be about you, rather than it being about anyone else and worrying about what other people think. Because obviously I was worried about my husband, and as he obviously would be worrying about me, and it's like worrying about my mum, because now she's obviously grieving, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law and everyone around me. You do worry about everyone else, but I think advice I would give is just yourself first. It's put yourself first, because as well as your partner, or if you have a partner there, let them take care of themselves sometimes, and just love yourself and reset and recharge, so that you can move on. And not move on, wrong term, is just find your way and deal with the grief. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would second everything that you said. I think the reality is self-love, it comes in different shapes and forms, and, you know, in different ways. And, you know, I think that there might be some of you here for whom loss has been maybe really, really recent. You know, for others, you know, that loss may have been a long time ago. I know in my personal experience, when I had my losses, in those kind of immediate weeks and months,
it was extremely difficult to love myself. Really, really hard. Like you said, you know, I just wanted to stay in bed, didn't respond to people's phone calls. I would be out, and I'm very good at kind of giving the impression that I'm okay, but internally there was a lot that was going on, and it would take all my energy to kind of get up, put on makeup, and, you know, get out of the house. So, you know, I was always, you know, walking, but wasn't. I was alive, but I wasn't living. If that makes sense. And I think this is why what you were saying about allowing people to love you perhaps is really important, because sometimes it can be really difficult to give yourself that self-love when you're really in that moment. It can be very, very hard. But if you have trusted friends, loving family members, allow them to do that for you. You know, I wish that I was more vocal to allow maybe friends to come round, cook for me, take me on a spa day, or even just go for a walk and not say anything, you know, allowing them to kind of come alongside me and perhaps give me that self-love that maybe I wasn't giving myself. But I guess as time goes on, you are more able to kind of say, right, okay, I'm gonna go and get my nails done, because my nails and my feet were looking terrible. Just not that great. I'm like, right, I'm gonna get manicured, I'm gonna get pedicure done. And, you know, as time goes on, people say, you know, grief never goes away. Well, you know, the experiences that you've had, you'll never forget, but you do learn to grow around that grief as time goes on. And I've learned to kind of do that. So I am a lot more intentional now about loving myself and doing the things that give me joy, doing the things that make me, you know, that make me happy. And for me personally, it's I always say, you know, I think about the babies that are in heaven and I haven't had, and I ask myself, you know, what what would they be saying if kind of they were alive today? And especially, my son Malachi, who my daughter talks a lot about. And, I think, he'd like, Mom, kind of get out, go and ride your bike, go for a walk. Like, I can really imagine, my kids encouraging me not to stay permanently in the position that I was at. So there's part of me in terms of honoring the babies that I've lost. That self-love is a way of kind of honoring them, saying, okay, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go out because I know this is what they want. But it can be really difficult. And I would say, please be kind to yourselves. I think sometimes we do live in this world where so there can be quite a bit of toxic positivity, just kind of get up and just kind of keep going. When you experience loss, sometimes things will hit you at unexpected moments. And I'd encourage you to kind of feel what you're feeling. It's absolutely valid. Mother's Day is coming up. And I know for some of us that can be it can be quite an anxiety inducing moment. You don't know how to deal with it. And that's okay. But I would say, as Tara said, find things that give you those glimmers of joy, glimmers of hope, glimmers of love, and allow yourself to feel that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everything you've said during that segment. Thank you to everyone who has been watching. We've now come to the end of this recording. In our comments, you'll be able to see some support groups that you can contact. Thank you.